Hello and welcome to Wise Exotics. Today we'll be doing a discussion video about growing lowland in highland setup. I've wanted to do this video for a while and I've gotten quite a few inquiries about this, as it seems to befuddle people that I have lowlands, ultra lowlands next to highlands and ultra highlands. How did I do this? Is there some crazy secret to it? No, not really. It's quite simple and I've explained this just briefly at a time, but I thought I'd kind of go over how this hypothesis/theory occurred and how I put it into practice and why it seems to work. Now, to start off with, I initially had Ampular Black Miracle and a Lime Twist Ampular, and neither of which survived in my conditions, so I thought I would write off lowland, and I always had problems trying to grow those. Now, as a side note, it might be just because those aren't actually carnivorous plants. Ampularas are actually a 180 from the carnivorous setup. What they do in the wild is typically catch dead leaves or decaying, like bark and stuff that fall off the trees above them in their little pitcher baskets, and that acts as a nutritional intake. Sure, a bug can land in there and they'll eat the bug, but that is actually not their dedicated food source and or resource. Random fact. Now, as an accident, I was researching Malapoensis. I found a brightly colored cousin of it, Northiana. I did not check its range and I bought it. My Northiana at the time was a BE red clone, and I thought it would be interesting to have one because, well, they're sensitive and slow to grow. Obviously, they're highland, right? In my silly whatever mental thought, I should have checked it. As I always tell people, just research the species you're going to get. However, I bought it, I put it in a bag, I acclimated it for a few weeks in the bag, and then I slowly let it out, and it's done fine. I still have that plant. I even have a seed grown one now. It wasn't till months later someone had checked my video out and commented telling me, you realize that's a lowland, right? As is your truncata. So I started doing some research, which is what I should have done. Truncatas, it can be found in all ranges, lowland to highland. So that one actually made sense to me. I'm like, okay, that can be found anywhere. There are specific ranges, but most truncata are hardy and kind of grow everywhere. That's why people love to put truncata genetics in hybrids. Same thing with veitchii. They're very versatile. Veitchii can be found in lowland to highland setups all around the world. Now, the more sensitive ones, that usually threw people for a loop that I have some of these in here. So I started researching, and one of the ones that kind of came to mind immediately after reading an article was Bicolatera. Bicolatera was originally found from 0 to 300. There was an article posted that they had actually found some at 1,000+ meters, so extreme highland conditions, and it was growing just perfectly fine. In fact, they were quite huge. I have a Bicolatera down here that I bought to experiment and see if it could handle. It did perfectly fine in highland setup. This is the Carnivora Orange X Red. It is seed grown. It's, as I said, just growing perfectly fine. It recently graduated from the tank, so it's out in the open area now. And it's got its largest pitcher yet, so it's already developing one on that new leaf too. Quite a fun plant. It's actually my aunt's favorite plant of my collection, she said. Anyway, so from there, after the research and getting a Bicolatera and testing it and trying my bag method I did with the Northiana, that seemed to work. So I got a Sumatrana. Now the Sumatrana was very sensitive and it aborted all its pitchers that it had, and it took a while to kind of get back into condition, but it took it about 3 to 4 months, but it came back and started pitching again, perfectly happy in these cooler temperatures. Same thing with my Rafflesiana. I will point out that my white exotic plant cross Fukakusa has always been in highland conditions and never cared. So that was another one that was kind of like, that's doing quite well. That's also a lowland. So I started checking what I had and comparing it, and that started to make me have a hypothesis about growing this. Now, as an example, I have a tank set up. Typically, if you're bagging a plant, you're doing this to keep high humidity, and so they get acclimated to the temperature range as well as the light in the setup. Now, here's the Sumatrana, picturing perfectly, my Northiana, my larger one from BE, and then the smaller seed grown one is right next to it. I also have pudica, which is a rather recent species right there that is growing fine. There is also Alba americanata, Rafflesiana, quite a few Veitchii, and even a Ampullera Black Miracle hybrid right there. Let's see, this is lemon cherry over here. Lemon cherry is a complex lowland species. I also have a Suratensis now, which is right over there. That is an extreme lowland. That is ultra lowland and is growing literally 2 plants away from my Diabolica. Yeah, right by the Diabolica. Now, that being said, it's simply just a method of bagging. You take a bag, you seal it. Every morning and night, you'll open it, circulate the air, close it, and then use your pinky to slowly open it over time. Now, I do this usually over 2 weeks or more, depending on how the plant is hackling. If they're losing their pitchers while in the bag, that usually means I need to keep them bagged just to keep the humidity up so they get comfortable with that temperature range, as an example. So overall, it seems to work well and has proven a successful method for me to grow these. It's not a big secret. It's not hard. Anybody can try this. Now, I do have a weird temperature range and setup because I'm in a valley and I get ocean night breezes every night. My temperature ranges outside of this room are 30 to 50 sometimes throughout the year. It's only like spring to summer-ish that it peaks up to 70, and then there's this one hot month that sometimes we get heat waves in kind of the fall time, and that's usually when I've lost plants, and that heat wave is usually 80 to 90, and it's only for like a day or two. So as long as you get cool night drops, that seems to be okay, but usually at the time my lowlands seem to really enjoy it. It doesn't shock them or anything, but when it gets into the 100 pluses, that's when it worries me. And that's when I've had plants just with the stray sunbeam hit them, barbecue them up above. So I move them away from there during that, time frame. But for the lowlands, this and the highlands all together, this is all I do. I just keep them in bags, and then if they're really tiny, I'll keep them in the tank setup here, which, I've shown plenty of times. It's just an acrylic top. I keep it gapped here in the front. So this goes in at an angle under this lip, and then the back is slightly raised to where it has a gap right here in each corner. That's it. That's all I do. So I hope you find this video helpful, and or maybe you can try to grow your own in lowland in highland setups, or maybe try highland in lowland. Though highlands typically need the night drops for their metabolism to metabolize correctly, to my understanding. Lowlands also do benefit from it. It seems to help with pigmentation, especially in Veitchii. Now, that being said, I hope this video is helpful and or give you an idea to try. If you're going to try this, try with something cheap like a one of the bicollaterals, like I said, and then go from there. But if you have ever seen me selling any of these lowlands, feel free to ask. I am selling this little Alba here, and they're already acclimated to highland setups. So yeah, best wishes, and Trevor out.